All right. So I was hanging out with Roomslinger last week, and it's not a secret. I became a Burning Wheel fanboy, like total fanboy. And he asked me, hey, why don't you do more Burning Wheel videos? And talk about it, share with us what you think about it and stuff like that. And I'm like, I cannot talk about Burning Wheel, man. It's like that's the only game I play nowadays. And I stopped playing any other kind of RPG. I'm just too much of a fanboy. I have no credibility. And it seems like for some people it doesn't matter. So they still want to hear me talk about Burning Wheel. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do a couple of videos. I don't want to do a whole series and stuff like that because I tried in the past and it's gonna fail anyway. But I can just discuss a little bit about it. So Roomsinger wants me to talk about the mechanic a little bit. Burning Wheel is quite simple mechanic. There's an interesting say about the mechanic. It's quite technical, so it's really technical game, but it's not crunchy. So that's a distinction here. It is important to make. I will give you an example. If you take Shadowrun 4th edition and you want to cast a spell with a magic user, you have 8 steps to go through. That's crunchy. That's really crunchy. Casting a spell is just, you can get used to it. It's gonna take you maybe, I don't know, like 15 seconds when you get really used to it. You're gonna roll the dice and you're done, kind of thing. In Burning Wheel, casting a spell is 3 steps. And it does exactly the same thing because these guys have been playing Shadowrun a lot. So the designers, there's a lot of Shadowrun Burning Wheel. So the same kind of mechanic. It's D6 dice pool and stuff, skill based, and it's gonna take you 3 steps in Burning Wheel to cast a spell. To create the same stuff, like cast a spell and drain it, kind of thing. Same damn thing. So it's technical because it has lots of different aspects of it. Basically, it's quite simple. It's D6 dice pool against an obstacle, and it's a skill-based game. So you do that for everything. You roll a skill for everything with a D6 dice pool against an obstacle. That's the mechanic. That's the core mechanic. And it's quite common. It's quite simple, and but there's a lot of shit you can do with it. It's like a big ass toolbox, but you don't really have to use it. So for example, every time you want to create something in the world, every time you want to do something in the world, you state an intention. So it's really an intention based design. So the game is driven by the player's intention. So the players say, I want to do XYZ. So then he says, I'm going to do it like that. So there's no one way to do things in Burning Wheel. So for example, you want to steal, you want to steal a sword from the market. Well, there's many ways. You can do it with a link test, so many different tests, one after the other, and then if you manage to succeed the whole sequence, or it doesn't even matter if you succeed or not. Actually, that's the whole thing, is that let's say you want to steal something. You can make a steal test, see if you are seen or not. You can make a speed test, see if you're faster than your opponent observation. You can try to talk with him, and then do a sleight of hand while you talk with him. To create your intention, you formulate it. You pronunciate it a certain way. You say I want to do this. So the formulation is really important. Then you say how. And then depending on how you want to do that intention, it's gonna determine what skills you're gonna need, and maybe if it's gonna be a link test or if it's gonna be a regular test or whatever, and then the GM or the person in front of you, depending if, let's say for example, you're trying to convince the guy next to you, well, it's gonna be that guy who's gonna say what's the obstacle. Sometimes it's gonna be his will. Sometimes, so the GM, if you play with a GM, the GM is gonna set up the obstacle, or everybody around the table will say, that's an obstacle 4. All right, so you go obstacle 4, and then you roll it. So that's basically how it's done, and that's the mechanic. Now the thing is that you have many tools, so every time you roll. Every time you you have an intention, you don't roll. The GM is never telling you when to roll. It's you that decide when to roll. It's the player who decides when to roll. There's no GM saying like everybody roll perception or nothing like that. It's just the player say I want to do XYZ. I'm gonna do it that way. Then he's gonna roll. So the rolls are initiated by the player all the time because they have an intention toward the world. And then now you create a dice pool, and that's the magic of Burning Wheels, that everybody can help around the table by giving you a die, and they're gonna, depending on the skill they wanna participate into that intention, that event you're creating, and then you can also forks the field of relative knowledge. You can also fork any kind of skill that is meaningful to your intention, creating a bigger dice pool. Then you can spend some Artha, which is like a specific economy in the game that allows you to re-roll your 6s, to add more dice to your dice pool, or re-roll the failures and stuff like that. So there's all these little details all the time. So at first, when you get into Burning Wheel, you see all these possibilities. As you can be overwhelmed. But at the end of the day, it's just a D6 dice pool skill base against obstacle. That's it. It's just that it's technical. There's so many things. You can take your time. Now, if you take your time, create some stuff in the narrative, but it allows you another die. So every time you roll, you need to think about everything you need to do. So it's like you create a collective dice pool around the table, and then the player rolls it. So those moments build up intensity. And then you roll it, and you miss by 1 success, but you have 2 6s. Am I spending another fate? Is it worth it? Now it's part of the game to accept failure. So when you accept failure, the narrative goes to the people, the other people, either the GM or someone who you are confronting. And if you win, the narrative goes to you, so you describe what's going on. So if you win, you get to describe. If you fail, the other person gets to describe. And now it's always, and so it's in this game. What I learned by playing this game is that you don't have to succeed to get what you want. So even in failure, you might get what you want, but there's gonna be some complications. And that's the whole thing, is that you are never obliged to fall into the pit. You are never obliged to never get what you want, because it's not a yes or no thing. It's all about yes, but you got it, but. And a lot of people do it already. That's a really interesting thing. That's a good skill for Game Master. Some people does it with D&D, and it's amazing. It's not black or white, so you never know what's gonna happen. So that's quite cool. And then you so the whole thing with the dice pool is that it is a collective dice pool, that everybody is involved in your roll. So there's no looking at the flies because the other guy is rolling and it's long and no, it's just everybody's involved. So are you gonna spend some Artha? Because if you don't, and because you need it now, you have 2 6s, you miss 1 success. If you spend 1 Artha point, you get to reroll those 6s. You might gonna get a success that is missing for you to succeed your roll. And if you say no, I keep my Artha, everybody around the table will go, oh, what's gonna happen? And then the GM or the person that is supposed to narrate, in case of failure in that situation, well, is gonna surprise everybody with complications, and now everybody is involved in it, and oh fuck, what are we gonna do and stuff, and it create that's basically the mechanic of it. Now in this game, that's the basic, that goes for everything. Now in this game you have second layers of mechanic, which is called conflict, and those are mini games separated from the core mechanic, but they work the same. They are skill based, d6 dice pool, and you can do everything I just mentioned in those conflict, but they have a different structure of gaming. So one is called the Duel of Wits, which is a game of argumentations. So you get to select type of rhetorical moves like obfuscating, making a point, dismissing, avoiding, stuff like that, and then you go head to head with someone with an argument, and it's really cool little system in this game. It's amazing. You know, when you want to discuss with a king, this is how you do it. When you want to discuss, when you want to haggle, for example, I'll give you an example. Let's say you are haggling in the market for I don't know, for a sword. You can decide to roll your haggling skills and just go on a versus roll, but you can as well just say, I'm going on a duel of wits with you, man. I want that sword. and then everybody around the table go, oh shit, and then you start to role play, because every sentence you say is scripted on your sheet and is gonna make you get closer to what you want, or making you do compromises. So the fight is the same thing. There's 3 ways to do fight. You can just do versus roll. You can do a bloody versus, which is more complicated. Versus roll, which is like you had more dices and more specificities into the role that you divide into defense and attack and stuff like that. So all those little specificities are like mini systems everywhere in this game. And then after a couple of months of playing, because you get used to them. After a couple of months, you've done them all. So basically that's what the mechanic is. I don't want to go too deep into it, because it would take forever. There's so many little systems, so many little stuff, but it's definitely not crunchy as Shadowrun. It's really just technical. And a lot of people I initiated to the game, I got into the fold. They got it right away. They started playing right away after an hour. It's not. It's really not hard. Really not complicated. So anyway, yeah, that's basically the whole thing with Burning Wheel, and it's yeah, that's what it is. It's all about your intentions, how you phrase them, and against that obstacle, and it create that range where setting the obstacle and formulating correctly your intention is key to make the narrative go, where it's gonna go and how. And it's always, that's really important, it's always the dices that decides where the narrative go. It's never the player. It's never the GM that say, we're gonna go there, or 6 months have passed, or this happens. No, it's the dices. Because you state your intention, if you got it, this is where it's going. So the dice is telling you that your idea is gonna happen, and it has to happen. You cannot have an idea and it's not happening. It's not the way you play the game. If you say your intention and you succeed the dice, this is what happened. And if you fail, you don't know what's gonna happen. The other guy's gonna tell you, and this is what's gonna happen. And this, and the dice is decided that it was about that surprise. So this is why you don't prep, and this is why I play Burning Wheel, because when I get into the game around the table with the guys, I really don't know where it's gonna go, and this is what is fun. I'm looking for what these guys are gonna come up with, and they are looking for what I'm gonna come up with, as a group, not as a GM telling the story, So yeah, that's the whole thing. Anyway, I hope it was clear. I know I'm just hoboing out with no images to show you, but Yeah, that's what it is. All right, thank you for watching.